Alicia, thank you for your time. What about the argument that nuclear weapons are actually an effective deterrent against a new world war? There hasn't been a nuclear weapon used since 1945.
Thank you so much for having me. In response to that argument, which we hear a lot, I think it's important to note that there's actually never been a substantial causal argument linking nuclear weapons to quote unquote sustaining world peace. And quite on the contrary, we've seen a number of international conflicts continue, even conflicts among nuclear armed powers. So there's really no evidence to support this conclusion that nuclear weapons are helping to keep the peace. Quite on the contrary, as you mentioned in your introduction, we know that the use of just one nuclear weapon would have devastating humanitarian consequences, and the risk for nuclear weapons use is increasing.
Where are we with international agreements for countries to decommission their nuclear weapons or denuclearize completely?
So in 2017, the first internationally legally binding prohibition on nuclear weapons was adopted by the majority of UN member states. Now that treaty is well on its way to enter into full legal force, which will happen once 50 states have ratified or officially agreed to be legally bound by the treaty. We currently have 44 states that have done so, and this treaty is an enormous advancement in terms of boosting the norm against nuclear weapons, as well as putting in place additional obligations for the members of the treaty to advance nuclear disarmament.
Of the 9 countries that currently possess nuclear weapons, apart from them, are there any others that ICAN understands might be trying to develop their own?
Well, as you mentioned, the work of the International Atomic Energy Agency is crucial in establishing a worldwide system of verification to ensure that countries with peaceful nuclear energy programs are not advancing towards a nuclear weapons program. So we already have this, through the International Atomic Energy Agency, an incredible system of international verification to give some guarantee that there aren't other secret nuclear weapons programs.
How serious is it, do you think, that the United States and Russia have both withdrawn from a treaty that was signed during the Cold War, Presidents Reagan and Gorbachev signing that intermediate range nuclear treaty, the INF, and now not being a part of it under their current presidents? How serious is that?
I mean, it's very serious to see that the countries with 90%, more than 90% of the world's nuclear arsenals are not taking more serious steps towards nuclear disarmament, given the ever-present risk of nuclear weapons use and the devastating impacts of use. And I think it also underlines the importance of international multilateral agreements, including the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, as well as other nuclear weapons treaties like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, in reining in nuclear activities of all nuclear armed nations. But having these multilateral agreements is so important so that we're not completely dependent on just these bilateral agreements that one country can walk away from.
How safely stored are the world's nuclear weapons? One of the big fears, and so far it hasn't happened, is that possibly a non-state actor could get their hands on nuclear material. How safely is storage undertaken in terms of what we know?
Well, what we do know is that as there continues to be more than 13,000 nuclear weapons in the world, the risk of one of those weapons falling into the hands of a non-state actor is greater than if we eliminate some of those nuclear weapons. It's another reason why it's so important to make sure that that we are working towards a nuclear disarmament. Even in countries where they really do try to secure nuclear weapons, accidents happen. And the use of a nuclear weapon would be a catastrophic accident that there's no adequate humanitarian response for. So in order to prevent against a non-state actor requiring a nuclear weapon, it's really crucial that all countries are working to eliminate their nuclear weapons.
Alicia, thanks so much indeed for sharing your information and giving us that analysis. That's Alicia Sanders-Zakre from ICAN in Geneva.